with symbolizing. There's lots and lots of different ways of symbolizing. In fact, I'll show you labeling at the same time. What we're going to do is symbolize SEIFA. Now, SEIFA is the Socioeconomic Indices for Areas, and it is an Australian Bureau of Statistics product, and it consists of 4 indices: relative socioeconomic disadvantage, relative socioeconomic advantage and disadvantage, index of education and occupation, index of economic resources. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click on it and go into properties. You'll see it'll come up the same thing. We're not going to do single symbol or categories. We're going to go into quantities, and what we want to do is graduated colors. We can change it there, or we can just leave it as is. We can change it afterwards. Now, why don't we look at the index of education and occupation? Because I'm doing quantities, and we'll talk about statistics and statistical analysis next week, but what we want to do is do the actual scores. The higher, or so we can do deciles as well. Let's just do deciles. And we will click there on IEO. What did we say? Indicate. Let's go into the IEO. We'll do scores. I know I've changed my mind 20 times. Let's just go there. And you'll see it's come up with all sorts of different colors. Let's just make a color that's more intuitive. So blue is lower, so that's because it's called education and occupation. Blue is actually lower socioeconomic and red is higher socioeconomic. Let's just go apply. And we'll see, ooh. I mean, you don't necessarily have to go okay. And you can think, oh, that's a terrible color. So let's change the color to something a little nicer. We can do it in shades of gray or shades of green. There's quite a lot in here. Let's do it in that color. There we go. Apply. And then if we go, okay, well, it doesn't really say very much. You see, you can play around with this quite a lot. You can also reverse it. Reverse sorting. There we go. Apply. Okay, so the areas in Brisbane there that have higher education and occupation, so higher education tends to be, let's zoom out a bit. I always click the wrong way. It tends to be those suburbs, CBD suburbs, all around there. And what we might do too is, we may as well do this because we've got time left. I've got 5 minutes each. I'm going to put on SA2. Well, first of all, what I'm going to do is double click on it. No color. And I'm going to click on it so it loads SA2, and I'm going to right click on it and do the same thing with properties. This incidentally is another way that you can find the area that you're looking for, that you'll have to find it on a map. And we go into labels, and I'm going to label the features in the layer, and I'm going to label it with SA2. You can label it with all sorts of things, but I want to label it with the name of the SA2. There's lots of different things you can do there, but let's just go OK. So you'll see it's quite messy. So you can change that, but let's just leave that for the moment. We'll do that when we make maps label. So we'll see here, for example, just zoom in a bit closer so we can see that, for example, the index of relative education and occupation for areas like Pullen Vale, Fig Tree Pocket, Kenmore, Chelmer, all of those which are known as quite upmarket and expensive areas, they tend to be ranked pretty high in that. Whereas if you look down at the areas such as Inala, Waco, Goodna, Redbank Plains, Coopers Plains, for example, are ranked as quite low socioeconomic. And don't forget about the ecological fallacy that you can't, there's maybe plenty of millionaires who live there and maybe some very poor people who live there. But it's just a relative thing. Areas where there's not a lot of people, where there's no houses, like Greenbank Military Camp, Waco, Mount Cootha, that's the golf course and the university there, they don't have any data because no one actually lives there. It's based on the census, and the census is based on people where people live. Well, it's one of the main indices of the census. We're going to be talking about the SEIFA much later, but for the moment, that is how you symbolize things by graduated numerical fields.